Welcome to Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I am a philomath who is somebody who loves to learn things. One of the things that I've learned is that everyone has a tale to tell and a lesson to teach. From pilots to farriers to musicians to authors and creators, I'm going to explore my interests while introducing you to some amazing people. Pre-flight is complete and we have clearance, so let's kick the tires and start the fires. You know how you sometimes meet a person and are instant friends? Well, Joe was like that for me. Joe is a farrier that came to the Heartland for some tuning up in the forge, and as the days rolled on, we had one thing after another in common. As I got to hear more of Joe's story, I realized that you needed to hear it too, so I talked him into sitting down for an interview. He has some great stories and some really good information if you are suffering with a hernia or high blood pressure. Sit back, have a good time listening to Joe tell you about his world. We are cleared for takeoff. All right, folks. Well, let me tell you what. I am so honored to be sitting here with Joe Cuthbertson. Joe is a farrier that I have just met, but as I got to know him, he seemed almost like a brother. The more we talked, the more we had in common. Joe's here for a blacksmith course. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and it's neat getting to know you because I've been telling my wife we have a lot in common.
We really do.
That we've noticed. Yep, I met you at the convention. I saw in your book that you were on the Mounted Color Guard. We put that together that I was at VMI too. So this is, like I said, it's an honor to meet you and be here for this. And
yeah,
thank you.
So those of you that don't know, VMI, what does that stand for?
The Virginia Military Institute.
And I went to the New Mexico Military Institute with the NMMI initials. So obviously we have them beat because we have 4 initials. But I wrote a memoir, and it told a little bit about my story going through military school, and Joe's been reading part of it. How did that stack up to Virginia?
How they were very much the same. They were very good at making our lives miserable, and yeah, it seemed like a lot of similar things.
And you went there for a 4-year degree in college, right?
Yes.
So tell us, what do they call you your first year? Are you a rat?
We're rats. Yep, just like you guys were rats. And when Hell Week starts, where we learn how to do everything that rats are going to do for the next, I guess, about 8 months. I lost 22 pounds during Hell Week, as I'm sure you know how that went. Yep, we talked about very similar eating habits.
Were you a big guy going in?
I was about 215.
For your height, that was pretty big. But were you muscle or were you fat?
I was a lot of muscle. I was a country boy growing up, and stacked a lot of hay, worked in lumber yards, stuff like that. And I got down to under 200 pounds. And when I was in 8th grade, I wrestled 189. So I was that far. Yeah.
Holy cow, Joe.
Yep.
Man, I went into military school. I was skinny, but anybody that was heavy, they changed that fast.
Oh, yeah. They loved me.
And did you wrestle for them?
No, I didn't. We had to do rap boxing when we were there. And then I boxed on a club team. And then I played rugby also.
Very cool. Tell us about your childhood. You've been telling me a few snippets here and there. You grew up a military brat.
Yes, both my parents are retired lieutenant colonels.
In the Army?
Yes. My dad started out in artillery and then went into a Ranger battalion. And my mom was an ER nurse and eventually went into the OR. But they both did 20 years in. And they had my brother and I very early on in their marriage. And we're 18 months apart. We moved every 3 years. So we were always each other's best friends because we were the constant.
Well, the constant new kids among new kids, right?
Yes.
So where all did you live?
Born at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And then when I was a couple months old, my parents got stationed in Germany. We were there for a couple of, I guess, almost 3 years, about 2.5, 3 years. And then from there to Texas, where I got my introduction into horses and stuff.
Was that Fort Hood, Fort Sill, Fort Sam?
Fort Sam, Houston.
Fort Sam, okay.
Yes, right out in San Antonio. And then we were there for almost 4 years. And then we went to Fort Stewart, Georgia. And then from Fort Stewart back to Fort Bragg. And then my parents retired from Fort Bragg and we moved up to Virginia.
So really a southern tour. You didn't get to go to like Fort Lewis or nothing up north.
Nope. Yeah, it was all southern.
Well, you have a southern bent to you for sure.
Yes.
And was it cool growing up a military kid?
It was, especially back then, because like when we were in Texas, my brother and I we had little ponies. And we were the Wranglers, cowboy shirt, lassos, all that fun stuff. And we would get to ride through all the training areas because we kept the horses at the stables on post. So we would go back and ride. And There would be troops out doing training exercises, and they would let us tie our ponies up to the trees and climb through the tanks. And we had a blast. And they had the Dragoons, which was a drill and ceremony team. And they had their own ring where they practiced, and they would let my brother and I come in there with them. And they would all be in formation, galloping, and they'd all draw their sabers at the same time and slice watermelons on posts. And my brother and I were on our Shetland ponies just running around behind them like flies following the horses, you know?
Oh, man. That sounds a lot of fun.
It was.
So now your brother, he went on with the military.
Yes. He's a lieutenant colonel right now. He was encouraged very much to stay in for full bird colonel, but he's decided that he wants to get out. He's a Green Beret, and he was on a combat dive team, and he spent 2 years attached to a SEAL team working as a liaison.
Wow.
My brother's, he's always been one of my best friends, and he's like one of the last true Southern gentleman kind of guys. He's very nice, very kind, but he cannot be when he needs to not be. He's a great guy.
I was told that the Army diving school is the hardest school they have.
Yes, they actually had somebody die in the class right before he went. That stuff, his day at the pool and my day at the pool are completely different. My brother was telling me, there were times when you're blindfolded and you're trying to get out of an apparatus that they have you in and find your air hose and put it in your mouth. And he said he got to the point where he started losing motor function in his hands and started to black out. And then one of the cadre members that was there stuck an air hose in his mouth, and he said it was instantly awake again. But yeah, he had to do that one a second time.
Wow. Yeah. Sound like a lot of fun, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So you wanted to be a soldier?
I did. Not initially. I didn't want to go to VMI. My brother did. He was gung-ho. He's like a PT stud,
You would expect that, and he did go to VMI?
Yes.
So you were behind him?
I was. Yep. He's 18 months older than me, and we were 1 year apart. I failed kindergarten because I was colorblind, and they thought I was maybe just a little slow. And then he set himself back a grade because he had to move his senior year. And so he wanted to be able to graduate with people that he knew better. And so he held himself back. So we graduated 1 year apart. And yes, he went to the Virginia Military Institute, and I was, good for you, Bob. And then my dad was just like, you're going there too. And I said, oh, no, I'm not really built for that. He said, yeah, you're going to go, or just pack your stuff and forget you know us till you're settled and have a career and stuff like that. I was a little bit of the black sheep back in the day. So I thought, well, I guess I'm going to have to go to VMI. I always wanted to shoe horses, but that wasn't an option at the time. And I didn't know there was a such thing as horseshoeing school.
So this is going back just a little bit. Let me finish this VMI question that I wanted to ask. So I was the first one, and my brother was 15 months behind me. And so he was a year behind me. And I've always said that I made his life so much easier. Did Bob make your life easier?
Yes. I probably made Bob's life a lot harder because there was a lot of, Bob, how could you let your brother do that? Growing up, he was always the angel on my shoulder, if you will.
But he protected you a little bit when you got to be a rat?
Yes, he did do that.
What is the student population at VMI when you went?
When I was there, it was about 12 to 1,400, something like that.
All college?
Yes, all college. And I was, I think, the third, maybe fourth class that matriculated with women or with female cadets.
Okay.
Because that was a big change that had happened right before I got there.
What year did you go?
I went in 2000.
2000. All right. So I was at NMMI in 83, and women had been there for about, I think, 10 or 12 years. For all of my NEMI buddies, I stand corrected if it was 70 and not 71 or whatever, but we had about 1,000 students when we started a year and about 50 to 60 women in that.
We didn't have very many women in our class. They were a small population then. The ones that were there, they were there to be there.
Oh, yeah. There were some really gung-ho ladies in NEMI as well. Now, why would you want to shoe horses? You grew up a military brat.
I did. So when my parents were in Germany, and, again, I was tiny, my parents were talking. My mom grew up riding horses, and she wanted to get another horse if they went somewhere that would allow that. So when we got stationed in Texas, what other place to get a horse, So they bought a horse, they moved it to the stables on post, and when the farrier was there, they went and asked him to add the horse to the schedule. He did the horse on whenever his next available time was. This would have been mid-'80s. No Venmo back then.
No, thank God.
Yeah. When he was done, my dad paid him with a check, and he looks at the check and he looked at my dad and he said, I've never met another Cuthbertson before. He said, you wouldn't happen to know a Robert John, would you? And my dad looked at him with surprise, and was like, that's my dad. And come to find out, the farrier, Ray Green, was on my grandfather's, I think it was Special Forces recon team in Vietnam.
Wow.
For a tour.
So your grandfather was Special Forces as well?
Yes. My grandfather's still alive. He's 91. And on his 89th birthday, he bench pressed 250 4 times on his own.
Goodness gracious, Joe.
When he turned 90, he did 200 pounds twice.
That is unbelievable.
He still works out. He's an animal. He can't hear, but he's an animal.
Is your grandmother still alive?
No. My grandfather's my only remaining grandparent left. He and I have been really close for my whole life.
Wow. And this is on your dad's side?
Yes.
I wonder how many 89-year-olds could bench press 200 pounds even once. It's got to be a small number.
I tell you, I was working out a lot with him there just a couple of years ago, so I got a hernia pretty bad. I had to man up to keep up with him on the tricep press.
How cool, huh?
Yeah, he was awesome, but it was really cool to get to work out with my grandfather every day.
Yeah, man, that is very cool. Anyway, you were VMI and you were going to be a soldier, but what happened?
So I didn't want to be there. Well, this is a kind of funny story. I didn't want to be there so much that my mom filled out my application for me to go, and I got turned down. And I was like, thank you, Lord. But what I didn't realize, I wasn't living for the Lord back then, and I didn't hear his chuckle, because an older gentleman that my dad knew, my dad was venting to him that I didn't get in. And he says, hang on, Casey, I know people and they owe me favors. And I got home a couple days later and my parents said, there's a message for you on the answering machine. And when I listened to it, it was that older gentleman, and he says, he's in.
Oh, man. It's all about who you know, huh?
Yes. When I was there, 9/11 happened, actually my rat year.
Wow.
We just got into rat English class, which I loved so much. I ended up taking both of them twice. Our professor says he was logging in because we had just gotten projectors that you could go online and it would project on the. So he said, somebody crashed an airplane into one of the World Trade Centers. Let's see what's going on. And we were all joking and laughing, thinking somebody had crashed a Cessna into it.
Right.
9/11 happened that day, and I was actually, coincidentally, I did Army ROTC there. We were at the range qualifying that day, too, and Sergeant Thornton was one of the Army instructors doing a rotation. He was a Special Forces sniper, and I remember he was telling us, pray for war, boys, pray for war. When VMI finished up, my brother graduated the year ahead of me. I was friends with a lot of guys in his class. They were all deploying immediately.
Because they got their commission through VMI.
Yes, they commissioned. Rat year with the Army Department, they were like, who wants to be on scholarship? Raise your paw.
Right.
And so people would raise their hand and they'd be like, come with us, sign the papers. You're owned by the government.
You're in, yeah.
I didn't want to do that, so I made sure to keep mine down. After I graduated, especially when my brother deployed, it was different for me because we were always so close. So I said, I got to go in.
So you waited that long to even be interested in actually signing up?
Yes.
So you're 22, 23?
Yep. I think about 23. Yeah, that first time when my brother went, that's when it really, really hit me. And so I went to the Army recruiter and set everything up to go.
And so you're about to start as an enlisted PFC? Or...
Yes. Yep. I haven't learned till recently that there's a way other than the hard way to do things in life. So I'm just learning that stuff, and it's helping some. So I was going to do that, and I was going to go to basic and boot camp. And then when that was done, go to OCS, because I did have my degree from VMI. I set a date to leave. And well, my mom said, she was an Army nurse. So she said, you need to tell them about your medical history because everything was done at military hospitals and they'll know. And if you lie, you'll get court-martialed. My mom called me her orthopedic wonder growing up. I spent a lot of time breaking bones and having fun. And
not because you have brittle bones or nothing, just because of what you were doing.
It was hard life. So I told them about a hip surgery that I had when I was 11. They told me that was going to keep me out because I already had some arthritis in my hip. So I had to go see the ortho specialist for the Army. It was, and so I set the date and all that to go see. Went through a full physical with him again. And he said I was good to go. As long as I didn't want to go airborne, I would be okay, which I was fine with because I'm scared to death of heights. And I like flying, but I like going up and landing in it. I set my dates to leave, and I broke my heart, but I sold my horse that I took to VMI with me. I was leaving. So I sold my horse. I sold my horse trailer. And then about a week before I was supposed to leave, I got a call from the recruiter, and he says, I have good news and bad news. What do you want first? And I said, give me the bad news. And he said, you can't go. That hip's going to keep you out. So I said, well, what's the good news? And he said, if there's ever a draft, you don't have to go if you don't want to.
Oh, man.
So yeah, I was just a little bit angry. I was working on a fish boat early in the mornings, and then I would help one friend build docks after that. And then I would also run heavy equipment on the side for a guy and partied some and stuff, to make up for my 4 years of sweat parties from VMI. I started doing that, and I applied for a job with the Border Patrol. Because again, I always wanted to shoe horses, and I talked to my dad, and he wouldn't let me.
Was your dad making good money on the side as a shoer during the military?
Yes. So Uncle Ray said to my dad, he said, if you're going to be around horses, you should learn to do more than just shovel manure.
Uncle Ray is Ray Green,
yes,
the farrier that knew the Cuthbertson.
Yes.
And had been in special forces with your grandfather in Vietnam.
Yes. When we were down there, he told my dad, he said, you should learn to do more. My dad said, okay. So he started apprenticing under Uncle Ray. He quickly became Uncle Ray, and he was just big cowboy. You remind me a lot of him. You guys have the same hairdo, same mustache, and stuff like that. But Uncle Ray to me was he was awesome. And we spent a lot of time at his ranch. We got to shoot little 22s, it was the cowboy life. And so anyway, he taught my dad. My dad got certified within the first year because he's one of those people that he can just skim something and he has it, really good test take or stuff like that. So he's been a certified farrier the whole time he was shoeing. And then he would shoe on the side and stuff in the military. Like I said, I always wanted to do it. And he would always tell me, you're not touching anything of mine until you're certified. So it's kind of like, well, teach me.
He wouldn't teach you, but he expects you to be certified before you start.
Yes.
Interesting problem.
And actually, back to Uncle Ray, in 2002, when I was at VMI for my junior year, second class year, as they call it, Aunt Maggie, Uncle Ray's wife, was killed in a vehicle accident. She and a girlfriend were heading back from Ohio from a barrel race. She was on the phone with Uncle Ray. They were together since they were like teenagers. They were amazing. Anyway, she was on the phone with him. She screamed because the bridge collapsed in front of her. A barge hit a bridge and collapsed the bridge. And she told him, she said, I'm okay. And he just heard a loud boom. And then that was it. And a tractor trailer rear-ended the horse trailer and shoved them off, and they didn't make it.
Oh, man.
So Uncle Ray was really heartbroken and stuff too. And so I asked him, I said, can I quit college and come out there and just live with you and apprentice with you and work with you and stuff? But he had slowed down a lot at that time, and he didn't want my dad to get mad. And he didn't want me to quit college.
Probably good in hindsight.
Yes. Yeah, everything works out for a reason.
Yep. All right. So then you applied to the Border Patrol, and you pretty much were going to get that job, right?
Yes. It was a year-long hiring process. We were tying things up, and my dad found out he was going to need back surgery. He was a paratrooper, and he broke his back when he was a lieutenant before he went Rangers or anything. He got caught in a hot air pocket, and somebody came down through his parachute and collapsed it, and he fell from above treetops. So when he landed, he broke his back and compressed his spine almost 2 inches.
Wow.
So, yep. And he was in a coma for a couple days from it, and he's shorter than he was when he joined the Army. So he found out he had spinal canal stenosis, where he broke the back and crushed it. It was growing in around his spinal cord. And ironically, they said the best spinal fluid movement he had was when he was bent over. So shoeing horses helped keep him healthy for some time.
Wow.
But he asked me, said, if I send you to horseshoeing school, would you run the business for a year till I'm back on my feet? And then if you like it, we can run 2 trucks. And if you don't, you can go do the Border Patrol. So I asked Border Patrol. They gave me 1 year to decide. And my dad called Danny Ward, and the class was full. But because of the circumstances, Danny let me in. So that's when I started.
And where were you living at the time?
I was in Whitestone, Virginia at the time.
Is that where you still live?
I live in Lively, but it's the same area, about 20 minutes.
All right. So now, Danny Ward, do you know a greater man?
No, he was awesome. He really was. He was one of the humblest people. And one of the best days of shoeing that I had. We were at this barn, and this lady, all class, she pulled a stud out and put him in the center cross ties, and there was a mare in front of him, a mare behind him. So he starts getting antsy, and she's like whipping his stuff and everything. And she comes over to me with that lit Marlboro with about 1.5 inches of ash hanging off. She goes, "You got enough light, honey?" And I said, I don't think it really matters at this point. I've been closing my eyes and hoping for the best because I was nailing a shoe on, which obviously I wasn't going to do that because I could hit my finger. Then a couple minutes later, I hear, that's him right there. I don't want him touching my horses. So Danny, with his, laugh, he goes, yeah, come on, Joe, let's come outside. So I just stood out there with Danny. I spent the whole afternoon one-on-one with him, shaping shoes and doing stuff like that. And it was a good time.
Yeah. I got to work for him.
Oh, really?
Well, that's in the first memoir. So I had just gotten out of my OBC in Fort Lee, Virginia. Kelly was 7 months pregnant with Cody, and we lived in a tent outside Danny's shop for 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And he let me work as an instructor because I was about to start a school in Colorado. And so I got to be an instructor of his class in 91. And my pregnant wife living in a 2-man tent, which I thought was nicer than some of the stuff we'd been living in the Army,
Yeah.
But anyway, he had no reason he had to do that. He just was one of the nicest, most giving gentlemen I ever met.
Yes. Yeah, he really was. And it blew me away how humble he was. You'd read articles about him and it's like, wow.
He had done a lot.
He treated everybody like you were one of the most important people he'd ever met.
Yeah. And when he died, I went out to his memorial and spoke at it. He was really a big mentor for me. I stayed in touch with him a lot. Yeah. Yeah, 6'8", so he was. Well, anyway, we diverged from your story, and I'm sorry about that. Horseshoeing school's over. You get home, you going to buy 2 trucks, or what happened?
Yep. Well, so we were going to work together for about a year, and then he was going to have his surgery. His back started irritating him enough that we just went, I want to say it was 1 round, but I think it may have been 2 or something like that.
And by a round, 2 rotations through the horses.
Yes. Back then, he had most things on a 6-week schedule. He had just gone full time. He was working as a director of facilities. My dad's a brilliant guy, and he's got an engineering degree. And when he retired, he wanted to make sure he had full income and stuff coming in, so he took a job. So he had only been shoeing full time for maybe a year, I think, or 2, which is just a couple of years when he had to have his surgery. And his back started irritating him enough. And I'm a slow learner, and he's not a patient teacher. And stuff.
And right after horseshoeing school, that's a tough time to be.
Yes. No, it wasn't long, though. He said, I'm going to have my surgery early, and then, I can ride with you and help. So I was like, okay. And then when he went down for his surgery, his back was in way worse shape once they got inside than they thought. He ended up putting, it was either 8 or 11 pounds of hardware and plates and rods and all that in his back.
That is some serious material.
Yes, so there was no way he was going to be able to get back. He couldn't bend, the same anymore, and he was frustrated with all that, and he just threw me to the wolves, kind of. And
now, was it hard to work with your dad?
No, I knew that I didn't know enough.
So your dad says it's your business, huh?
So he was done, and I guess is my way of kind of purchasing it. I worked for them for 6 months where we just split the profits, and then after I was here 6 or 7 months, I just took it all over, but. In that time, he didn't ride. He was recovering from his surgery, and then I guess he was pretty bummed out, that he wasn't going to be able to get back to it. So he just was done with it pretty much. I didn't have any experience. Of course, I knew everything, but people didn't understand that. So I had a lot of people fire me right off the bat, which worked out because I was still working 6, sometimes 7 days a week, still trying to keep up.
Sure.
Because you're so slow. So, that worked out. And then I guess probably about 8 months in, 8 months, maybe a year in, I came in contact with Russ Height because they had a shoeing supply shop. And he's just kind of like, dude, do you need help? I said, yes, I do. So Russ gave me his number, and I don't know, he may have regretted it over the years, but he's helped me out a lot.
Oh, yeah. Great. Him and his dad, both really nice guys.
Yes, he was an awesome guy.
Are you shoeing horses in the same area you were?
Yes. I work mostly in Williamsburg, Yorktown area, which is an hour and a half to 2 hours away.
Wow. So you have that much commute to start your day?
Yes.
Is that because there's better money there?
Yeah, there's better money, really nice places. My dad did irritate a couple of people on his way out. My dad's a nice guy. He's very much this is my way and how it is kind of thing. And just quick story, I remember when we were riding together, and this lady told us that, her trainer said the horse needed adjustment because it wasn't moving well. So my dad says, well, let's lunge it. Well, it doesn't do it when you're lunging it. So he says, well, does it do it when the trainer's riding it? No, only when I'm riding it. And we all deal with stuff like that, but you just have to
tactfully deal with it.
Yes. So anyway, he goes, well, saddle him up. So she goes out, she rides him. She's very proud. She comes in and she goes, what did you think? And he says, well, Beth, you look like Ichabod Crane riding a donkey, and we can't fix that with shoes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and that was the last time. I remember when I was supposed to go back for the next shoeing rotation, I had a message on my answering machine at home that said, my donkey and I are going to try something new. And then a lot of her friends fired me.
Sure.
Because of that too. And then the area I'm in is a smaller area. There's quite a few backyard horse places, which I love those, but a lot of them had butt heads with my dad. I'm guilty by association in some of that. Like, I've actually had people talk horribly about me with me present. They didn't even know who I was, but they didn't like my dad enough that
Oh, man.
they carried it on. Yeah.
In the Williamsburg, Yorktown area, is it a pretty expensive place to live?
Yes.
So you get to live in one economy.
Yes.
And shoe in another.
Yes. My wife and I have 20 acres where we are now, and I probably couldn't do that in Williamsburg.
Ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's nice. And it's nice sometimes just, shutting my brain off. I don't love having that far of a commute all the time, but I do. I actually only have one day that I'm local to my area.
I'll be dang. That's interesting.
And actually, I was all over the place. Russ Height asked me to go to Williamsburg to shoe one horse for one of his wife's friends. And it was a 63 stall barn. And he pretty much was just like, keep it simple. Just do, go out there, just do this horse properly. So I was like, man, that's a long way to go, because I didn't really do anything in that direction. I went the other ways. So I went out there, and I mean, within 6 months, I was working every Wednesday at that barn. And then it's just grown from there. So, and it's all been by word of mouth. And I've been able to give all my other stuff in the other directions to younger farriers. And
well, that's very nice.
There's enough work, so I've never understood the guys that backstab and stuff like that. And I've learned from guys, like Russ, Mike Poe, Corey Minnick. Those guys are all awesome guys, and they have friends. And I was telling somebody, the guys that I would consider my competition are my friends.
Sure.
Like, we put shoes on for each other. We help each other out.
Yeah, we're blessed to be in a business where there's so much work.
Yes.
That you don't have to be a jerk. And a rising tide, it lifts all ships, which not everybody understands.
That's true. That is very true.
We're going to diverge a little bit. So one of your interesting things that I found out about you was your hernia.
Yes.
So tell us about your hernia.
I was working on a horse. It was fly season, and it jerked pretty hard when I was nailing a hind shoe on.
Now, I had a small business in Virginia, and from what I understand, fly season is pretty much January 31st till December 1st, isn't it?
Yes, that's very true. And they mean business. The horse jerked when I was nailing the shoe on, and I kind of hunkered down to hold it because I didn't want the nail in me and I didn't want him in him. And I remember I felt a burn on the left side of my groin. At that time, I was working out a lot, and we were in the gym that evening. It was a small private gym. We went heavy, and we were doing dumbbells. I did 22 reps with 90-pound dumbbells, and my weight trainer was, he was like, man, you're an animal today. And I felt so good. Everything was feeling good. And I got home, and I was in the shower, and when I went to dry off, I was like, what is that? It looked like a fist sticking out on the left side of my groin.
Wow.
I did what any grown man would do. I called my wife. I was like, Susie, you need to come here and look at this. And I touched it, and it actually made a gurgle sound and went back in. Instantly, I was just like, I'm possessed by an alien. I've seen this movie. we need a priest.
Oh, man.
It was an inguinal hernia, and it was a pretty bad one.
Not caused by aliens.
No, thank goodness. I'm still here. And I'm still me. I went to my doctor, and she was supposed to be pretty holistically minded, which is why I was going to her. But she told me, she said that hernias can't be repaired without surgery. There's no way of just healing it. So I made an appointment with a surgeon to go talk to her. My wife has grown up completely holistic, everything very much natural, and God knew what he was doing when he made our bodies. And of course, I'm not saying if I break an arm, I would, I'm going to the ER, but we don't just take pills for everything kind of stuff. We learn a balanced diet and things like that. She started talking to a couple other people that she knew, and they were like, I think, especially as bad as that one is, it's going to need surgery. And she went online on DuckDuckGo. I was saying it's a search engine.
Yeah, and so DuckDuckGo, real quick, what is that search engine?
It's a search engine that's pretty, I guess, conservative, and it's not monitored and controlled as much. As real as information as you can get from the internet, you will most likely find there over Google. Because when we Googled it, there is no way to heal a hernia without surgery. My wife looked on DuckDuckGo, and she found a place out of Maryland. It was Dr. Hunter's, I think. They had a website. They'd been treating hernias for almost 30 years with something like a 97 or 98% success rate, as long as it was reducible. So you could push on it and it would go in and it would stay in. And
I don't know enough about hernias, and you call it inguinal?
yes.
And there's hiatal?
Hiatal is, I think, more by your belly button.
Do they treat those too?
Yes.
And what about the ones that they check whenever you're getting a physical? What are those kind?
I don't remember what that one's called.
But they treat those too?
Yes.
As long as you can push it back in?
Yes. As long as it's reducible and it'll stay in until you cough or push or something like that. Okay. And then it comes back out. My wife told me, she said, we're going to give this a shot. And so I said, okay. When I went in for my appointment with the surgeon and they looked over it, she says, this has to be fixed with surgery. I work for a lot of different doctors, nurses, medical professionals.
Horseshoers are just connected. Yeah.
Yes. And so all of them were telling me, Joe, if you don't have to have surgery, do not have surgery. And if you do have to have surgery, do not let them put that mesh in you. Because what they've been seeing now is people who were having surgery with the mesh 20 years ago are now having big problems with the mesh growing into the tissue.
Right. I've heard about that.
Yeah. And it's a big surgery to have to get all that stuff back out and redone. So I didn't want to have that done because I'm one of those people, if there is a side effect, anything like that, it always affects me. Yes. The lottery has not worked that way for me. But
like handcuffs and tequila.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, so I was talking to the surgeon and I said, well, I'd like to give it some time and see if I can get this to heal naturally. And she chuckled and she said, okay, do you want to go ahead and set your surgery date though before you leave? And I said, no, I'm good. Thank you. We're going to give it a shot. And this wasn't just a simple, I was really questioning a lot of life choices when we went through this because there was a whole process of supplements that you take that detox heavy metal out of your tissue to allow the tissue to heal and different stuff like that. And they were saying that an average person who works a light duty job, stuff like that, you were looking at about 6 months of healing.
Which horseshoeing is not.
Especially not during fly season. It wasn't. There were times it was definitely a flush and detox. There were some mornings that I left a little bit late, and I think the only thing left in my body was my soul. And I got this really cool girdle that I got to wear at night with a poultice on the outside that would feed the tissue from the outside in.
Wow.
With nutrients. And then you're taking a bunch of stuff that's flushing and rebuilding from the inside. But yeah, long story short, I worked on a hoof jack cradle on all hind feet for almost 1.5 years. And the first 6 months was not comfortable. I did have a lot of guys, though, that were telling me, man, if you need to get this surgery done, make sure you do it in the fall. Just hold out till fall. Don't do it in the middle of the summer. And I was thinking, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it in the summer.
Before you went in for this, you also were taking some medication, weren't you?
Yes. I was on 2 types of blood pressure medication.
So is high blood pressure something runs in your family?
My mom's side a little bit.
Why do you think yours was so high?
I'm not sure.
It wasn't just anger and...
That may have had a little bit to do with some of it at some point. But mine was just really high. So I had times where during the day, mine would be 225 over 125.
That's like stroke territory, isn't it?
Yes. Well, and that's what I thought too. Crazy enough, we know how sensitive horses are. My bad days, horses were really on edge around me. It was crazy. Yes. I was on 2 different medications. They were trying to get stuff figured out. And I had all kinds of problems, from all the side effects. Or as my chiropractor says, there are no side effects, only effects.
There you go. Yeah.
I was having a lot of those problems. Well, when my wife found my hernia solution, it was one of those things I was telling you, I'm convinced that God gave me the hernia to find this blood pressure. They had a blood pressure supplement. So she says, we're going to try this because I had tried I tried cinnamon. I tried all kinds of stuff, in the natural
everything that wasn't
world.
A prescription.
Yes. Even with my prescriptions and stuff, we did it. And it still wouldn't come down. I'd say A low day, it would be about 165, 170 over about 110, 115, which is still pretty high. So we started on that. My blood pressure was almost normal within 3 days. They have a protocol on there to start, add the supplement in, wait a week or two, checking your blood pressure every couple days. And as your blood pressure starts to decrease, slowly decrease your prescription medication. Mine decreased so quickly, I just stopped it. After about 4 days, I completely stopped my prescriptions.
4 days?
Yep. And my blood pressure's normalized.
Wow. I think that after all this talk, we really ought to let people know where they can find information about this. So you sent me the website, and it is Hunter's Natural Health, and it is naturalhealthinformation.com, right?
Yep.
All right.
They have a lot of good stuff like for cholesterol.
Lifestyle protocol, heavy metal, blood clot removal, reverse dementia, Alzheimer's, stroke, heart attack, and very holistic, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you have a problem that falls under some of these categories, this may be the best podcast you ever heard.
That's true. Helped me a lot.
So all of these have been some great stories that I've heard in the last 10 days. You had a former wife. Do you want to tell a story about the dog?
I'll tell the story.
Okay. All right. This is a great one.
My ex-wife is an equine vet, and we get along really well now. We work together a lot. She's actually my vet. I had a little blue heeler at the time. She was, I don't know, probably about 6 months old. Maybe not even that. She was probably about 4 months old. She was still pretty tiny. If I peed outside, I had to really keep an eye on her because she would try to run over and would want to bite at my pee stream and stuff. So I finished up shoeing. I was at a house, backyard place. And the girl went inside to get her checkbook, and I had to pee real bad. So I went where I could see through the windows of my truck to see when she was coming across the lawn, and I started peeing, and then I just heard chomp, 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 chomp. And I looked down, and my little blue heeler is right in my pee stream, biting and chomping and having a ball. And I was like, oh no. And as soon as I was zipping up, my ex-wife pulled up to the barn because she was there for shots and everything that day. And, I'm zipping up and I come around and I hear her go, oh my goodness, a puppy. And I look over and she's holding my little blue heeler and mushing their faces together and kissing on it. And she says, well, I can see you've been playing in the quench buckets.
Oh, man.
When I got in the truck, I called my my wife now, Susie, and I said, you're not going to believe what happened.
Oh, man, what a great story.
Yes.
Tell us about your Christian walk. That's been an interesting story.
I was going through my divorce, and it was a long, tedious one. I was kind of at my wit's end, and it had gotten really bad between us. Again, God works in mysterious ways. I was hanging out with a friend who was a dance instructor.
Just real quick, as a child, did you have any religious?
I grew up Catholic, and it was one of those, like, it was a rule in my parents' house, you're going to go to church, and I was just not.
Didn't take.
No, and I hated it. I did.
So when you left home, you really were anti-religious almost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And yes, I used to spend my Sundays at my buddy's bar.
Okay. All right.
So, and during this time, my friend told me about my now wife, Susie, and she said, there's this girl, she's taking my swing dance class, and you guys were made for each other. You need to come meet her. And I was like, no, I'm good. I don't want to get involved with anything. I'm just going to. So after a couple weeks, and she was, telling me that, I was going out to my buddy's bar for dinner and a couple beers and stuff. And my friend Katie texted me and she said, hey, I'm going to come out and meet you. Where are you? And so I said, well, I'm at Kurt's right now. He's getting ready to close it down. So I said, I'll meet you at the Mexican restaurant. So we went over to their bar, and she brought Susie with her. They came to just grab some dinner because I was being stubborn and I wasn't going to the swing dancing class. So she brought Susie over there.
So she knew it was meant to be.
Yes. And Susie and I sat down and talked for probably an hour and a half. And it was like there was nobody else there. We just talked and talked. So then the next night I did start swing dancing class.
Nice.
To really, yes. So I can hop, step, triple step.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm not great at it, though.
Let's have a demo.
No.
All right. That's beautiful. Thanks.
Perfect.
You guys should have seen that.
Yeah, I started hanging out with her in a group environment. She was amazing. And I was trying to sell a piano that when my parents bought a new place, it was brand new. I was trying to sell it for $500. I was getting people on Craigslist cussing me out for false advertising. I had no idea. I'm like, it's just a piano. Here's the pictures.
Was it worth a lot more than that?
It turns out it was worth $10,000.
Wow. What'd you get for it?
I didn't. When I met Susie, we were all going out as friends one day in the group, and everybody was meeting at my house, and I got home a little bit late. So everybody was there. I jumped in the shower real quick, and when I got out, I heard the piano playing, and I was like, wow. So when I came out, she goes, that's a really nice piano. It's way out of tune, but it's really nice. And I said, look, if you have anybody that could benefit from it, they can have it. I'm tired. It's been a rough journey trying to make a couple $100 on it. So she was like, man, that thing is really nice. And that night, I think when we were all out as a group, I was just like, this has a lot of potential. I think this could go somewhere.
Well, don't leave us hanging. What happened to the piano?
We kept it.
Okay, so you still have it.
She teaches piano lessons on it daily now.
How wonderful. All right.
Yes. Anyway, we hung out a lot. One night, the two of us went out for something, and we went out for a motorcycle ride, and we were talking, and I said, I really like you. I want to kind of see where this goes. And she told me, she said, I really like you too, but I'm just not interested in a relationship with somebody who doesn't know the Lord, doesn't have a relationship with the Lord. So I was like, oh, man. She led praise and worship at the church there for a long time and everything. She's an amazing piano player and has the voice of an angel. And
boy, she does sing nice. I've seen a video.
So I thought, well, I can go to church a couple times and appease her, and then at least get me a foot in the door.
Right. Once you get in, then you could go back to the bar.
I'm a likable guy, right? So if I come to church and make an effort, that'll count for something. I started to do that, and I was when the Holy Spirit grabbed me, and I ended up getting saved and baptized through the church there because I wanted to, and it's been an amazing change in my life and walk and stuff since.
Great testimony, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have anything you can teach me? This is Kelly's contribution.
I was going to teach you how to fly a plane, but you already know how to do that.
Okay, well, teach me your version.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know how, but if you didn't know, then you wouldn't know I was lying.
Okay, all right.
In the natural health world, are you familiar with muscle testing?
I am not.
So everything in your body runs on frequencies.
Okay.
Everything has frequency in it. So for me, I have celiac, right? With Susie, when she muscle tests me on things, what we'll do is I'll sit out on the couch and I'll recline it, and she will pull my ankles and line my ankle bones up. So I'll be sitting there, my ankles are lined up. If I take wheat bread and I hold it against my solar plexus, and you can feel it when it happens, one of my legs will draw up and my ankle bones will be way off, because that has a frequency that does not coincide with the frequency of my body.
Wow.
And so, and you can do that with lies too. It was like an early lie detector test for muscle testing. Yeah. So we'll do that on supplements or anything like that, because if I get a supplement that, I think I need or something like that, she can muscle test me on it. And if my ankles stay straight, then I don't need it. And if they don't, then I do.
Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting.
It's been a neat thing. I've learned so much since I've been in part of that family we've been married. We were 10 years last fall.
So that's a good one. All right. And then what about a dad joke? You got a dad joke?
I do. Yep. And it's appropriate for today because it's raining. April showers bring May flowers. What do May flowers bring?
So it's a history lesson as well. Go ahead.
Pilgrims.
That is correct.
Yep.
That was very dad joke. That is right out of the second grade, and I appreciate that. I guess I should ask you a little bit about your journey here. How did you end up in the Heartland?
We have a mutual friend, Sunny, Melissa Malandrinos.
Oh, yes.
We know each other, and she's always raved about you and Cody, and I was a little bit jealous of the relationship that you guys have.
Oh, you mean Cody's relationship?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been shoeing this June will be 19 years, and like I said, I have a pretty successful business. I've been hot shoeing ever since I met Russ Height, when he told me, dude, you just got to learn how to do this, So I've been hot shoeing for some time. I've taught myself a lot of bad habits. I've struggled, along the way. And Liz and I started doing.
Liz is the young lady that came with you. Liz Kelton.
She's from Vermont. We met at Danny's school, and we just have been really good friends since. Liz's mentor, Mike Licata, learned under Mike Wildenstein. He went to Cornell under him, and Mike. He has been a mentor to me too, whether he liked it or not. He's an awesome guy. We're good friends.
Great guy.
Yes. So the three of us started doing private forging coaching days with Mike, because Mike Wildenstein, we call him the wildebeest behind his back, but he doesn't know that.
Don't listen to this, Mike.
Yeah, it's an awesome wildebeest. But so we started doing coaching day at Liz's house, because Liz lives an hour from him. So I would drive my 12 hours up there and spend a couple days, up there. And then we would do our coaching day and forging and stuff like that. I remember when Mike said, we're going to try a bar shoe, or Liz says, I want to learn how to do a bar shoe. And he goes, you want to do that, Joe? And I said, I feel like I want to learn how to do a backflip before I try to learn how to do a bar shoe. And I am not a gymnast. So we did bar shoes that day. That was the first time I've ever done one. And it took me about 3 hours and a lot of rasping. And so we've done several of those. And that really just kind of lit the fire again. I mean, I go to convention, I go to clinics and everything, but I also, because of how my dad saying I couldn't do anything until I was certified, I wanted to become successful without the AFA.
Kind of look at this, Dad.
Yes.
Yeah. Which you've done, though.
Yes, I have. And so now I'm like, I want to go further on that journey, and I want to apply myself. Plus, I have this terrible fear of being in front of people. I told you, I used to have really bad rage control issues where I didn't care. Now I do, and then I would almost go into like a panic attack if I'm in front of people.
I gave Kelly, did I tell you about that brochure? I gave her a brochure on anger management. She lost it. So anyway, you can carry on.
The whole thought, I've always like, man, that'd be cool to be able to compete and hang with those guys. But the thought of it makes me want to throw up. I just couldn't. I've told you before, like I've done the practical and I passed it. I did really well. I mean, that was when I met Mike Poth for the first time. He was actually my examiner.
He's a great guy.
He is. Yep. And he's helped me a lot over the years too. I got an afternoon. I got the 1 o'clock run after lunch, and I was so nervous all day. I couldn't eat anything. I feel like I could just throw up at any minute.
Wow.
Once I got started, I was better, but it was just and that's not a fun feeling. So Liz and I have been talking back and forth. We want to get better and be better. And yeah, she called me up and said, Heartland Horseshoeing does a 2-week forging class. We need to do it. And I was like, tell me how it is. Not that I didn't want to do it, but 2 weeks is a long time to be away, from the business and from my wife and helping with things on the farm. We have some cows and horses and donkeys.
Yeah, no, it's a sacrifice.
Yes, and she works full time also. And she's been doing an awesome job for me to be able to be here to do this. She's like an amazing support. I don't deserve the wife that I have. Liz said, we should do this. And so she signed up and I was like, nope. And then my wife, Susie, was just like, you should go do it. You guys have done so much together over your careers and you should just do it. And you want to get good. So just go do it. And so I signed up. I didn't even know what to expect. I had to pull tongs out of my truck because I'm like, I'm not going to need 1/4-inch tongs. I didn't even know what I was going to be getting into.
So now we are day 9. Have you learned anything?
Oh man. Yes. Yep. I learned that if you heat your shoe evenly, it shapes better.
Hey, that wasn't supposed to be a secret, Joe.
I'm sorry. I've struggled so hard with clips. I've worked with like Mike Poe, Russ Height, Corey Minnick, Steve Walthall. I've done Grant Moon clinics. I've struggled so hard, and I don't learn well. So I'm not easy to teach. I'm not very teachable, and you guys have an awesome method that has really helped.
Yeah, it looks like you're coming along good out there.
I'm so happy with the results that I've had. Anybody listening to this is a great course to consider and do. And everybody here has been awesome. I was extremely worried about that, what it was going to be like.
Like a bunch of drinking hillbillies or what?
No, I get along with all those pretty fine. A lot of people in a small place, and I kind of have a little bit of anxiety to stuff like that. So, I was not sure what all to expect, and it's been really great.
Well, just before we came in here, you got a pretty good start on some bar shoes that are looking like shoeboard quality, huh?
Yes, and I did not think I would get that far here. I'm confident with my clips now and my toe bends and everything better, and I'm really excited to get back and start applying more. Some dressage horses that I do, they want heavy shoes, and I've been making 1/2 inch by 1 shoes for them, but I don't clip them because I wasn't confident enough to clip them, and I didn't want to mess up my shoe.
Right. Spend all that time making a nice 1/2 by 1. And then,
yes.
Yeah.
And all that time is right, because I would do it at home, and it'd probably take me 2 hours to make a pair of shoes. So, yes.
Well, I got to say, it has been a pure joy to get to know you, and I'm thankful that you came here, and thanks for sharing your stories.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been great. You guys, it's like I met you, and it's like I've known you my whole life. So.
Yeah, no, really. Every time we visit, it's like, him and I could have grown up together, because it's been very cool.
When I talk to my wife in the evening, I'm like, one more thing that Chris and I have in common.
Yeah,
we travel with our own salt.
I do. I use a lot of salt, and table salt's so bad for you.
Yes. Well, that's another thing with my blood pressure. My chiropractor told me for years, dude, add salt to your diet. Add pink Himalayan salt or add Celtic sea salt. And that was one of the other things that I started doing at the same time that I started taking that supplement, because it has like 87 minerals and nutrients in it that help your body on a molecular level use the water. I would drink 3 gallons of water in a day, and I would just pee nonstop and sweat nonstop.
And staying away from salt because of blood pressure.
Yes. Yep. And they'd always tell you that, same thing, don't eat red meat. I eat a lot of red meat now too, and it's been helping.
Cool. Well, dude, thanks, man. That was fantastic.
Yeah, this has been a pleasure. Thanks.
My son Cody has always had a mind that works in an engineering mechanical way that allows him to solve problems that some people, like me, don't even know exist. His fuller is a perfect example. I've been making shoes since 1990 and have used just about every type of creaser there is out there. Some drive well, some don't, but to me they were all pieces of metal on a handle with an end to hit and a sharp end to make the crease. Cody started playing around with the geometry and heat treating of his fullers, and it was amazing how I can crease with one of his tools with a lot less effort. It takes 3 passes with another brand, Cody's will make it in 2. Well, I don't know how he did it, but I do know that his tools work with precision and accuracy that many others don't, allowing me to do a better job because they have a quality that I can count on. From his punches to his tongs, you'll not find a better tool to make your life as a farrier easier. Check out his line of tools at CodyGregoryLLC.com.